to tie-dye. So while everybody's getting into the waiting room, I'd love to hear what kind of colors you're using today. If you got the rainbow kit, I actually got a pastel version. So it's like pinks, blues, aqua, purples. Feel free to tell me in the chat what colors you chose for your tie-dye project today. So I'm excited to kind of show you guys a few different techniques. The main one we're going to be doing is this organic ombre. So we're going, this one went from a pink to a yellow to a blue, as you can kind of see here. Like I said, today I'm going to do more of a pastel version. Ooh, orange, lime, fuchsia. Oh, we got another pastel. Awesome. So I have a few projects that I've already done that I'll kind of show you different ways and how to recreate that look once we're done with the main shirt. And I also got a little tote bag so that we can use up some of that extra dye when we are done with our shirt. So now this project is definitely gonna be one that you're gonna have to finish on your own because we need that shirt to sit and absorb that dye. But I will go ahead and open mine up at the end so you can kind of see what results I got. And then I can't wait to see what results you get, and feel free to share it on social media and tag Michaels and use their hashtag Make It With Michaels so that we can all see and share your projects too. Okay, so I'm going to begin by mixing up the dye and then I'll get my gloves on, but this way I get a little bit more leverage while I'm working. So I'm going to use all of the colors that came in my kit. And if you have yours, just go ahead and pull them out and start opening up the lids. And we're going to fill them with some water. Yes, you normally would want to wash the shirt first. Somebody asked about washing the shirt first. You can wash the shirt first to remove the sizing. I didn't with this one that I'm wearing or some of the other projects, and they turned out fine. So if you haven't, don't worry about it. I'm using the Bella canvas. That's the shirt that I have on too. This is available at Michael's. These are really awesome shirts. They're so soft. I like to wear them all the time. I have some just in solid colors that I wear that I haven't even used for a project. Okay, so let's mix up our dye, and you're just going to take regular old tap water and fill it on up. Fill up the bottles. Some bottles have a little line that you would fill to. The more water you add, just the more pastel or less concentrated the color will be for your dye. So just add the lids back on, and then we will want to shake the containers to really incorporate that dye, because as you can see, some of the powder is still at the bottom here. We want to really get that mixed in. So let me see if I can, I'm taking a guess here with the two purples. I mixed up the lids and now I'm not sure which one's which. So make sure to keep them. I'll have to do a test squirt to double check. Just going to hold that and shake it. Fully mix up the dye. As you can see here, there's a little bit of powder left there, the dye mix. So we just want to make sure that that all gets incorporated into your water. Somebody was asking about the shirt being wet. You will need to have it wet, and that's why I have this bowl. I have a bowl of water here that I was going to use to wet my shirt. But yes, you're going to want to wet the shirt before you start adding the dye, and that's what I was going to do next. Do I need to add water to the dye? If you just have the dye powder like I did whenever I started, like the bottle with the powdered dye in there, the tie dye, you'll want to add water to fill up the dye bottles. If you are buying the pre-mixed dye that's already liquidy, then you don't need to add water to that. Okay, so I'm gonna put these to the side, and then I'm gonna get on my gloves And we'll go ahead and get the shirt wet. So if you have a shirt, or if you're doing a bag or something else besides the shirt, you're going to want to make sure that the fabric is wet and well saturated with water. That way the dye can spread through your material. So you just get it wet and then squeeze out all of that extra water. So you just have a damp material. So if your shirt isn't wet, go ahead and go run and do that real quick and I'll wait for you. You can just run it under the sink and I'll answer a few questions. So as Stacy said, this class is being recorded. So if you miss anything and need to come rewatch it, it'll be on the Michaels YouTube channel or at michaels.com/classes, probably by tomorrow or Saturday. Usually they have it up pretty quickly. And then let's see, if you do not want to use all of your powdered dye, you can, you could try dumping some of it out into a little Ziploc bag to save for later. Or just get a few other shirts to do or different projects like a tote bag or something that you can use up that leftover dye, because once you mix it up, you have about 24 hours to use it before it starts to lose potency and really not work anymore. I was gonna say, there's not really a hard and fast rule about how much water. Like I said, the more water you add, the more pastel your colors will be. So these are already pastel to begin with. It just may make it just a kind of a light brush of color. Whereas the shirt that I have on was more intense, bright colors, but I watered down the dye so that it would be more pastel. All right. 1, 2. Okay, so if your shirt is what, the shirt should be wet so that the dye absorbs into the material. If it's not wet, it'll just kind of pill up on your fabric and not absorb into the fabric. Okay, so for this one, this is just an organic tie-dye shirt. So I'm going to use the bunching method, but I wanted to show you guys just a few different techniques that you can do depending on what look you're going for. So if you want the traditional tie-dye swirl, you would just pinch your shirt in the middle and start to twist. And as you twist, it's going to create that swirl pattern. You see, I got some dye already. So then you just create this twist and use your rubber bands to band across this, kind of making it look like a pie chart of sorts. And then you would put your dye in the different pie segments. And that's how you'll get the twisted look. And then you can do different folds. So you could do a vertical fold and just go back and forth, or you could bunch it vertically and put the rubber bands on it. And that's what I did for the one that I'm wearing now. I just bunched it vertically like this and put the rubber bands about 2 inches apart and used each of those segments for a different color. Or you could bunch diagonal across it or vertically across it. And those will all give you different patterns of tie-dye. So it really kind of look up different shirts that you like the pattern of the tie-dye, and how you fold it will give you that pattern. But today we're just going to do an organic ombre so that it's more, let me show you one that I did. This one is all over, but just how you can kind of see there's no real pattern. It's just kind of splotchy. That's what we're going to go for today. Okay, so for this one, you don't even need the rubber bands. You're going to kind of do what I said and just bunch the material together. So bunch your shirt, and all of these little folds will be where it stays white, where the dye doesn't go, and then where the part that's exposed here at the top will be where the dye actually penetrates. If you want, you can always put rubber bands on there. That helps you and guides you for where you're going to put your colors. But if you bunch it tight enough, you don't really need these to band the shirt, but you would just kind of put it on like this. And then you just work your way up, band it, band it, band it. So let me see if there's any other questions. No? Okay. So we're going to move forward. So I'm just going to do the colors that came, and I'm going to kind of do this ombre pattern. So from pinks to purples and then into the green minty color. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm actually going to leave the top a little, I'm going to leave the top white a little bit because I like when it fades to white up at the top, but feel free to do this however you want. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to just go right across it with this light pink, a little ways from the top. And how much dye you add here really depends on how saturated you want your shirt to be. If you want there to be a lot of white space, then you're going to just do a little bit like I did, a little pass. If you want it to really saturate the shirt, then you're going to add more of the dye. And I'll kind of pull it apart to show you. See how the dye didn't really penetrate very much here because it was banded together. Now, if I add a little bit more in here, it will get more of an intense, there'll be more coloring in there. So again, this is kind of your preference on what look you like. So now that I've added a little bit more, you can see it's a little bit more colorful in here. Okay, now you don't need to pull your shirt up. I mean, you could, but you don't need to. I'm just kind of demonstrating that for you. I'm gonna add a little bit more. All right, so now I'm going to move on to my next color. And with this purple, sorry, I'm gonna double check. Sorry, I'm just double checking which one's lighter because I mixed up the lids. Okay, so this one is the lighter one. Okay, I'm gonna overlap the pink just slightly so that color starts to blend, and that's where you get that ombre look, when those two colors start to blend together. Okay, and I'm gonna come back with a little bit of pink and kind of do a little bit of overlap here because you want that blending of the color so that it just slowly transitions. Now I'm gonna go to my next darkest purple, and again, blend that a little bit with the one above it. And sometimes it'll look like you have quite a bit of dye in there, but since you're only seeing the top, you may want to add a little bit more if you want it to be really saturated ombre. So now I'm going back and I'm overlapping where those two colors met. And so now I don't know if you can tell in here, but in real life, you can see that there's this lighter purple, a mixture purple, and then the darker one. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this one. All right, and then I'm going to come down with the blue. And again, just overlap slightly with the color above it to help you get that ombre effect, that gradient look. Okay, and then I'm on to my last color, this mint. And I'm going to, again, overlap color above it. And now at the very end, since I have a little bit of space left, what I'm going to do, so I've used up about half of my dye. I'm going to open this and I'm going to dilute it a little bit further so it gives me a little bit lighter pastel color at the very bottom. Now this is completely optional, but it just kind of gives you different methods and different techniques that you can use with your own shirt. Like maybe you like the bright pink, but you want it to be a light pink, but you don't have light pink. You can just dilute that dye a little bit more and it'll just give you a lighter version of that color. All right. So I'm going to go back, give that little bit of a blend. A little bit of a blend. And then at the very top, I'm going to do the same thing with this light pink. and I'm gonna dilute it a little bit further. So as you can see, I've used up most of my dye, but I have a little bit there at the end. I'm gonna dilute this a little bit further and do the very top. So just get a blush of pink. Somebody was asking how many colors you recommend. It's up to you. I mean, if you want, you know, if you're doing 2 colors, 3 colors, you're gonna get just more choppy. There's gonna be less of a gradient effect. The more colors you use, obviously, the more of that like blended look you're gonna have going down the shirt. And you can see here, see how it's lighter pink than this one? And that's just because I diluted it a little bit further. You can also use this to like mix up colors. Like maybe I wanted this to be a little bit purple. Well, I can put a few drops in here, almost like you're mixing like icing or something. And this is a food coloring. You're gonna kind of create your own look. So now you can see I kind of have this pastel ombre going on. And once you get to this point, you're going to want to let it sit for 6 to 8 hours. You can let it sit overnight. The longer you let it sit, the more that dye will go into your fabric. So the more intense the colors will be. If you're going, like these are already pastels, so it probably won't get super intense because they're pastel colors to begin with. But if you're using some of the vibrant colors from the tie-dye kit, like this is a hot pink, the longer you let it sit, the closer it'll be to the color that's on the lid versus a lighter version of it. So I don't want to move this too much because all of the dye here, let me see, let me go grab a paper towel. I'm gonna wipe this down so that I can move it to the side and show you how a different technique on this tote bag that I have real quick. Hold on 1 second. All right, so I'm just gonna clean up some of my extra dye mess here. So you can make it go faster by sticking your shirt or fabric in a plastic bag or wrapping it in saran wrap. But because this is more of an ombre, I don't really want the colors to mix. Like I don't want that purple to get down here. So I would recommend just keeping it and setting it to the side and try not to fold it up or anything to stick it in a bag like that. Otherwise you'll end up more with a blotchy, I mean, not that that's bad, but if you want that ombre look, you probably don't want it to be blotched, the colors to mix. Okay. All right, so I cleaned up some of that. And now I'm going to do my tote bag. So one thing that I like is like whenever you have a paper towel, it's kind of like all blotched together like that. I really like the way that looks. So you could always use a piece of scrap fabric to clean up your mess. And then you have a little piece of fabric that you can use to sew into a different project you want. Okay, so does anybody want to see a particular fold with the tote bag since I have this? Okay, I'm getting the tote bag wet right now, and I'm gonna answer a few more questions because there's people asking questions. Okay, let me see. In this way, the color will sink to the back and the color on the back side of the shirt and fade away, right? Can you do the front and back separately? Yeah, I think you don't really need to do the front and the back, so I'll kind of show you on mine. But the color is on the back of the shirt as well. It really depends on how much of the dye you add to your shirt. But you may not need to do them. You may not need to do the back. If you add enough, it'll soak all the way through the front and the back of the shirt. Okay, somebody made patriotic ones, tie-dye shirts. That's fun for the 4th of July parade. See, yeah, so once you've let it set, you're gonna wash it out in the sink. At that point, the colors have absorbed into the shirt well enough that they're not gonna wash away. You'll wash it out in the sink until the colors, until it runs clear. And then you'll wash it in the washing machine without anything else on a large load to really make sure all the colors come out, and then you can dry it. And then you can wear it. Can you do a heart? Okay, for the tote bag. Will the colors bleed when I wash the top? How do you do a starburst heart shape? Okay, sorry, I was just reading all the comments, or the questions. So people want a starburst or a heart shape. I am not sure how to do the heart shape. I think I have a technique that I will try on that and see if it works. Let's see. So when you're done, you really want to leave it so that the color's set, because if you open it up, the colors are going to bleed everywhere because it's still wet right now and the colors are still setting into the shirt. So I would definitely leave it setting like this, or you can kind of pick it up and move it to a different location if you need to that's covered, but try not to disturb it or open it up until it's been about 6 to 8 hours so the colors have set. And then I don't have a finished one of these exact colors. I have the one that I'm wearing. So let's see if we can do a front view. I can show you guys this one here. So if you can kind of see, it's went from a pink, and I did the overlap of the yellow and the pink. So it's got a little bit of a peachy color here in the middle. And then I did the blue, and you can kind of see it's a little bit of a lighter blue here where the colors met. And then I didn't do the very bottom has a minty color. But I don't know where I had diluted the blue color, and I don't know if that comes across. I don't think that comes across on the video. But that's kind of what you'll get, is just like this organic ombre down the shirt. So let's see. You can, so we had a question about if you can do the tie-dye on a colored shirt. You can do it on a colored shirt. Just keep in mind that the color will affect the colors of the dye. So if you want it to be closest to what shows on the bottle, you want to use a white shirt. One option would be to reverse tie-dye a shirt, which just basically means you do your folds and use bleach on it, let the bleach set, it'll turn parts of the shirt, the colored shirt, white, and then you can use the color on that after you wash out the bleach and everything, come back with a dried, clean shirt that's been bleached, get it wet again, and then use the colored tie-dye to fill in those bleach spots and make it colorful, and that you'll get that vibrant color. For example, so this shirt that I tie-dyed here was actually more of a cream peachy color. It wasn't pure white. So then that affected and made the colors of the tie-dye a little bit more muted. So if you're doing, you know, maybe a green shirt or a yellow shirt, just take that in mind, that that color of the shirt will come through in your colors. Once it's set and you've hand washed it and the water is running clear and you go to wash it in your machine, go ahead and use it detergent like you would normally do a load of laundry. So somebody asked about how many shirts could be done. It really depends on how much dye you're using. I used quite a bit on this one. So, but some of the bottles have, you know, over half left. So you could do at least another shirt. And then this specific kit came with extra dye packets. So you could do at least 2 more of like the super concentrated tie-dye like this. Now the package says dye up to 30 projects. I think that's, you know, if you're going to do something like a little zip pouch where you're just using a couple drops of dye, you could do more projects with it, but something that's this intense, you'll get fewer out of the kit. Let's see, more questions. Yes, so somebody asked if I did the same amount of scrunching. I did, and I just kind of did the bunching on this one particular. I didn't band it. But again, you'll get a different look depending on how much dye you add too. So if you want it to be really colorful and more saturated, you're just going to squirt more dye into your shirt. What can we do so it doesn't go to waste? Do you have detergent? You wouldn't use detergent when you dry it, but just whenever you wash it in the machine. Okay, and then so for the rest of the die, you can use other projects. So like Michael's has a lot of great blanks that you could do. So like this is the tote bag that I found there, or these little zip pouches that I found. You can also just dye plain fabric. Like I have some here that I just dyed a whole bunch of fabric. So I can use this as a picnic blanket, or I can sew this into bags or bandanas or any other projects that I have sewing project wise. Another option, I did a project where I took some of the wood tumbling blocks like Jenga, and I used the wood and I dyed the wood with the tie-dye. And so it made it a really fun outdoor game for summer. Let's see if I can move this over slightly. Okay. White pillowcases, yeah, somebody said white pillowcases. Hand towels, kitchen towels, really kind of any sort of fabric item that you see, you can use up some of that extra dye with. Somebody asked about soda ash fixer. I am honestly not sure. I've only ever used the one-step tie dye that doesn't require anything other than the adding water to the dye kit, the dye. So I would definitely Google that and see if you need to use it or what it does. Okay, we lots of questions. When did the prepare the dye fabric? When you did the fabric? No, I didn't do anything to prepare the fabric. It was washed. I just got it wet and then used the dye on it. Yes, if you do a bunch of shirts, you can definitely wash it all together. You don't have to do it separate. You just don't want to put it with your regular clothing because there might be some dye that still comes off of it in the wash. And then somebody asked about, sorry, use 2 minutes. You can wash it with other items. I would just wash it by itself that first wash, just so that any extra dye doesn't get on your other clothing. Yeah, and then you can, the difference between this and the microwave set is just like, you can put this in the microwave. You just need that little clamshell to really steam it up and get it hot in there to set the dye. But like I said, if you do that to try to bunch this up and get it in there, those colors are all going to run together. So you won't get that ombre look. I've never used a vinegar rinse. I'm not sure that it's necessary. I haven't had an issue with the colors bleeding. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this tote bag and use the, let me see. I'm guessing the starburst you're wanting like this. I don't really, honestly, I like the organic look, so that's kind of what I've done. I might just go ahead and do the swirl because I don't know. Let me say, my technique for doing a starburst or a heart would be to tie dye this in an organic way and then take your bottle and actually draw a heart shape over the dye to create that heart shape. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to just bunch this organically and I'll use like the minty color and then I'll come back with one of the other colors and draw on a little heart. That's like a fun technique too. You could get a little stamp, like a piece of fabric or felt to use as a stamp, soak that in the color and then just stamp it on to create some different shapes on your piece. So I'm going to do the blue. Yeah, I'll do the blue. And I'm just going to kind of pull this across the tote bag to get that blue look. And I might add a little bit of this green in here since this is light. Okay, now this one I'm going to open up while it's still right after I did it here. You see, you got a nice organic, just blotchy tie-dye shape with the different colors. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pink. Oh, this is the lighter pink though. Maybe I'll take the purple. I'm gonna take the purple since it's a little bit darker. And I'm going to put my finger over the bottle so it doesn't squirt out. And then I'm just gonna like let it release here and draw this heart shape. And because the tote bag is wet, that dye will start to spread a little bit and give you that tie-dye look. So then you can get that a shape, and you can honestly do that with any pattern. I forgot to put this back on. Use your gloves or else your hands will be stained. I forgot to put those back on. All right. Let's see. Oh, that's fun. So somebody said that you can use a washable marker to draw on the heart, and then tie-dye is normal. And then when you wash the shirt, the marker will rub away and you'll be left with the heart. So that would be more of a resist. Yeah, so the dye will, you can use it past 24 hours, but it will lose its strength. So it won't be as potent and as I don't know, saturated of a color the longer you wait to use it, because of the activator in it loses its power. Okay, so I'm gonna move this to the side, and before we go, I'm going to, it's dripping everywhere. I'm gonna open up the shirt that we did earlier just so that you can kind of see the way it looks. For mine, you're gonna wanna keep yours wrapped up, or not wrapped up, but sitting there for several more hours. But I wanna show you the ombre look of it before we go. And then I'll answer a few more questions if anybody has any. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna unband this. If you did do banding, I'm gonna use, you can just use the scissors and snip it like I'm gonna do here. All right, snip those off, and then we're just gonna pull this apart. You can kind of see that ombre look. Now, if you want it to be super pastel at this point, or maybe after about half the time, a couple hours, you can take it and rinse it out earlier and to give it just a wash of color, because right now it is still kind of vibrant. But if you wanted it to be even more pastel like the top, you could just rinse it out after about an hour or two instead of letting it sit the whole time. But there we go. There's the ombre look of the shirt. All right, let's see if we had any other questions. Feel free to ask me. Can you apply the, so I haven't tried polyester. It definitely works best on natural materials like cotton and silk. Polyester, you may need to treat the material first, or you might not need to let it sit on there a little bit longer. I would definitely experiment with that. Oh, we've got a first-time tie-dyer, so I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, so I guess somebody was saying that they do have a polyester-specific tie-dye for the man-made materials like polyester. Somebody was asking if you could dry the shirt in the sun. Yes, you can. You can put it out there in the sun if you need to and let it dry out there. But once you've added the dye and it's dry, or it's been 6 to 8 hours, you're going to want to hand wash that to get out any extra dye before you wash it in the washing machine. Any other questions? Let me know. I'll answer them in just a few minutes here. And otherwise, I hope you guys had fun. I hope you have a fun, colorful ombre tie-dye shirt to wear, and that it's hooked you and you feel like you need to make all the tie-dye projects now like I do. And feel free again to share it. You can tag me at Kylo Chic, tag Michael's at Michael's Stores, and use the hashtag Make It With Michael's so that we can see your shirt once it's done, since we can't hold them up right now to show everybody. All right, let's see, one more. All right, well, it looks like that was all of the questions. Thank you guys so much for tie-dyeing with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see your projects. Bye.